The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.
We start, as we've been doing, because we have to, with Mike Huckabee, who won't quit. Eric Boehlert is senior fellow at Media Matters, and Michael Eric Dyson is author and professor at Georgetown University. First of all, I want to get the facts. Here's part of Huckabee's interview with radio talk show host Ben Fisher. Let's listen.
You seem to think there's some validity to the fact that there may be some fundamental anti-Americanism in this president.
Well, and that's exactly the point that I make in the book. And I don't know why these reporters, maybe they can't read. I guess that's part of it, because it's clearly spelled out. And I'm quoting a British newspaper who really were expressing the outrage of the Brits for that bus being returned. And the point was that they felt like that due to Obama's father and grandfather, it could be that his version of and view about the Mau Mau revolution was very different than most of the people who perhaps would grow up in the United States. And I have said many times publicly that I do think he has a different worldview. And I think it's in part molded out of a very different experience. Most of us grew up going to Boy Scout meetings, and, our communities were filled with Rotary clubs, not madrasas.
Well, just to correct the record, 1 millionth time more for Mike Huckabee. President Obama did grow up in the United States. He talks about other people who grew up in the United States are different. Let's go to Eric Boehlert right now of Media Matters and Michael Dyson. Eric, it seems to me that this fella just won't quit. And I want you to go through the record of the last 4 days. It's now Thursday. Why does he keep doing it, and what's he been doing? Why does he keep trying to write this guy out of our country?
Yeah, he just keeps digging. He started Monday with this radio interview. Look, he's out pushing a book. Maybe he's trying to make headlines, but it's interesting when these conservatives end up on AM talk radio. It's sort of a boys' club, and they talk in a way that's a little different than the rest of the media landscape. And luckily, Media Matters, flagged it. We monitor this stuff. It all used to disappear into the ether. And he makes this, misstatement a couple times about Obama growing up in Kenya. And then, more importantly, he draws it into this whole mindset of maybe Obama's anti-colonialism or why he views America a certain way. So later, Huckabee said, well, I meant to say Indonesia, but if you insert Indonesia to the rest of his talking points on the radio show, none of it made sense. It had to be Kenya. And that's why that was his first step. Then he comes out with this semi-apology, but the apology, as you highlight, just sort of feeds into more Obama bashing. He's not like us. He's foreign. He has a foreign influence. This stuff, it just won't end, and it's really the right-wing media will not let this stuff die. I mean, they're really fighting the last war. I mean, Obama won in an electoral landslide. He won, he won North Carolina. He won Indiana. Yeah. This idea that he is foreign and not like us, they won't let it go. But the American people just aren't buying it.
Well, I'm going to get to Michael. Let's go to Michael Dyson on this. Professor, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, sir.
Everybody knows I was in a Peace Corps. I was in Africa, and I think most Americans who grew up in my age group are familiar with the term Mau Mau. It was the uprising against the British colonists in Kenya. Of course, it ended up British rule there. It probably, in the end, was probably a good thing. It got them out of there. I'm not a colonialist. I don't like colonization of other people. I don't know why Huckabee is somehow saying that's a good thing here. Why is he talking about the Mau Maus, and why is he talking about this guy's grandfather? The great thing about America, and I'm going to get to this at the end of the show, you don't ask somebody who their grandfather was. You don't focus on their ancestry to try to make a point. You let them score the points in the field they're in, whether it's sports or whether it's any other field of American life, the law. This guy was head of the Harvard Law Review. You let people serve in this country to the best of their ability. You don't go back into their roots to try to find something bad back there you can use against them. Mau Mau, madrasa, this language, I know what it's saying. You tell me what you think.
Well, you're absolutely right. But before I even get to that, not only do you not go to their roots to try to disprove their American identity, you do it to embrace the fact that we can come from Europe, we can come from Italy, we can come from, wherever in Western or Eastern European countries, Polish, Jewish, Italian, and Lithuanian, and celebrate that we can come to America, that we can come under the edges of the call to democracy on American soil, and wherever we began with our humble roots, we can rise to the top. So not only are we not playing that with Obama, we should be celebrating him. His immigrant story, that is his father being of Kenyan descent, his mother, of course, white Kansan descent, his immigrant story is outside the arc and trajectory of the usual American immigrant story. It's not Eastern Europe, it's from Africa, but he grew up in America. What we're hearing with Mau Mau, what we're hearing with madrasas is not only is he different, as Brother Eric has says, not only is he foreign, and it's not an exotic foreign, it's a demonized foreign. He is other than us. The pedigree of his humanity is at stake. The skepticism about him as an African-American is at stake. And what Mr. Huckabee is trying to do is to engage in code words, the Morse coding of Obama as that other black man who was so dissimilar to us, so radically outside the arc and trajectory of our humanity that we can't understand him. And as a result of that, it's not enough to make sure that he's ideologically apart from us. Now he has to be racialized as the great other who is that makes the American people afraid of him. And I think that is racist politics at its worst.
Well, I don't know about you, Michael. I studied the Morse code in Boy Scouts. Not about you, Eric, but I studied the Morse code. You don't need any damn Morse code to figure out what Huckabee's pushing. Here he is on O'Reilly, the O'Reilly Factor last night, pushing more of this stuff. Here he is.
This is not a kid who grew up, going to Boy Scout meetings and playing Little League baseball.
No, he is not a traditional.
Town.
He is not a traditional guy.
Well, the thing is that just checking the facts, and Ed Schultz did a very good job of this. I was watching him last night in Los Angeles on the television screen last night. He did a very good job last night. And the fact is that President Obama was playing that other All-American sport, basketball. He was on a championship team. There's a great picture. I'm looking great there. They won the Hawaii State Championship. All this is on the record. He was a regular kid who kept his nose clean, did everything right, ended up on the Harvard Law Review, has a wonderful marriage, a wonderful wife. She got herself through Princeton, I believe. Her brother coaches out at Oregon State. Everything about them is 100% true blue American. They've done everything right in their life, done nothing wrong in their life. They haven't gone out and gobbled for money. They've done the right thing in terms of public values. Eric, I just want to get back to you, sir. Yeah. It just seems to me when a guy has done every darn thing right to live the American dream, even to the point of perfection, these awful people go out there and go after the ethnicity. Yeah. They go after something he had nothing to do with how he was born. He didn't pick his grandfather. You didn't pick yours. Eric didn't pick it. Michael didn't pick his. We don't pick our grandparents. We love them. We don't pick them. And this idea that somehow he's a Mau Mau guy or a madrasa kid, why doesn't the Conservative Party reject this kind of talk? Why don't the party of Lincoln say something here, Eric?
Well, I mean, look, we had there was a couple of Fox News employees, O'Reilly and Huckabee, in heated agreement about how Obama is foreign and he's not normal and he didn't play baseball and he's not like us. I mean, you say why doesn't the conservative movement, knock this down? That is the conservative movement. Fox News is the conservative movement. Yeah, and so this is what they embrace and this is what they push. And it's very interesting. I mean, Huckabee is playing a very peculiar dance with the whole birther thing. He says, oh, I don't doubt the birth certificate, but he embraces every other talking point of the birther movement. He's not like us. He's he's sort of a foreign influence. So he's sort of playing this cute game. I'm not going to question the birth certificate, but I'm going to question everything else about Obama's authenticity, and we see that throughout the conservative media today. That is mainstream conservative conversation.
Michael, I wonder what the conversations are like in the black community about this. I mean, you're not speaking for it or anything, but it must be amazing in the barbershops and regular places where people talk, chatting about this, where there's a guy out there going after a guy who's done everything right. It's not like he's done a couple of things wrong in his life. I mean, this guy's the dream.
Look, if you can't like this black man, not only as president, but as another human being, there's no black man been made that is existing that you will like. He went undergraduate at Occidental College, transferred to Columbia University, went on to work on Wall Street for a while, decided he wanted to be a public servant, went back to law school, worked in the fields as a community organizer, worked his way up. He is Horatio Alger in blackface. He created a future out of the dim past from which he had been descended, and in terms of recreating the possibility of the American dream in his rhetoric, he has articulated as brilliantly as possible the rich resources of what it means to be an American, and now he's being demonized as other. I want to ask Karl Rove, I want to ask Mike Huckabee, I want to ask all of these conservatives, show me your birth certificate. Better yet, show me your passport. I don't even know if you're from Earth. Show us your leader.
I agree. By the way, I know one
is
thing.
From this soil.
I know one thing, they're being very un-American here. Very un-American.
It's profoundly un-American, and it's anti-patriotic, and Obama is the greatest patriot in black people who love this country. Here we are, Chris, about to celebrate 150 years of the beginning of the Civil War for people who were Confederates, who embraced the flag, and a president, Jefferson Davis, who was against this nation, who are considered patriots, and black people who have never gone anywhere but deeper into the American psyche rise up as its greatest anti-patriots. It is ridiculous and balderdash.
Okay, let me go after a couple points here. There was a Rotary Club, according to Ed Schultz last night. I love this reporting on this. In Honolulu, as far back as 1905, this kid, when he was a kid, Barack Obama went to Catholic school, St. Francis Catholic School in Indonesia, most of his upbringing in high school. This kid played basketball. I'd like to see, which, by the way, is one of the most American sport there is. It was invented here, by the way. I wish people would remind themselves of that. And I'd like to see some of these characters who claim to be more American than him beat him in a couple of games of basketball. Anyway, thank you, Eric Pollard, sir, for getting the facts. Thank you, Michael Eric Dyson from Georgetown, professor, for joining us on the backdrop, the sad backdrop of this whole story and the way it's played in this country.
The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.